Each and every one of the mainline Pokemon games is dear to someone's heart. Kanto through Sinnoh are nostalgic for many people and mostly hold up to this day. Unova is constantly praised as the best conventional game of the series. Hisui and Paldea are seen as great breakthroughs for Pokemon, and Kalos and Galar definitely existed. However, no set of games are as iffy as the Alola games. That title used to belong to Unova, but some weird internet shit happened in 2019 and now everyone loves it. I'd like to dedicate a whole video on why and how the paradigm on those games shifted, but I'd like to play Black and White 1 first. Anyways, Alola has some great advantages coupled with some huge disadvantages. For every positive, there seems to be a negative attached with it. It's come to a point where it is really hard to spot where appreciation for these games lie on the spectrum. For me, I've always been a lover of this. Of course I am, these were my first Pokemon games. Nostalgia is such a powerful element that it's virtually unbreakable. I'm definitely going to be biased in this video, but I'll try my best to keep the focus straight. It's been an issue with other Leo High videos where instead of explaining every side, I just explain my own. I already know why I love it, but why do people love or hate the Alola games? Just to get it out of the way, I'll explain my backstory with these games before we get into the points. As I said previously, nostalgia. It controls all of our opinions and can rarely ever be changed. I still remember my first playthrough of Sun to this day, even though I literally got Alpha Sapphire the day after and played alongside, and even beat it because I didn't understand Fairy types matchups. This is the one that is much more dear to me. My team was Incineroar, Toucannon, Lycanroc, Lurantis, the Ash Greninja you get from the demo, and Rayquaza. No joke, I was lucky enough to have a generous neighbor friend person. Each and every one of these members I still really appreciate. Compare that to the team I used in my playthrough of Ultra Moon for the footage of this video, this time with nicknames: Zack the Incineroar, Jet the Alolan Raichu, Francine the Ribombee, Spike the Toxapex, Mr. Beast the Palisand, and Perry the Alolan Sandslash. Again, love all of these dudes, and while there were some Pokemon I would love to use, or just Lurantis again, I still really enjoyed it. It helps that I remember them much more vividly because of the playthrough and the plays episodes being mere weeks ago. Oh, and also, all of the footage you're seeing was also put out on my second channel, Potato Cat Plays, so if you're interested, check it out. I'll probably put the playlist in the iCard if I remember, so go there for a quicker link. Going back on that, Ultra Moon was the game I selected. Why? Well, I really wanted to test my nostalgia. By adding little tweaks by playing the enhanced version, it gave sort of a new perspective. The moon part was only there so I could put a Sandslash on my team and it didn't really matter that much. In retrospect, the Ultra part doesn't really change a whole lot and I can probably interchange the game I play in subsequent playthroughs. It didn't really change how much I enjoyed the game. There are some benefits to the new game and some downsides to Cough Cough Trainer music. That's enough about me though. What were the main polarizing aspects that would make or break this game to many people? I think the thing that elevates the most positivity from this game is the story. While recently being lowered down because of Scarlet and Violet's, that doesn't mean that it's any worse. Characters like Guzma and Hau have interesting arcs that I'm excited to follow, but the star of the show is the Ether Paradise family, consisting of Lily, Gladion, Lusamine, and Moan. Let's start with him because he's the easiest. A brilliant scientist who invested his time into ultra wormholes, accidentally falling into one and forgetting who he is. He runs a Pokepalago where it's chill time if you don't know, but if you know, it's kinda depressing. He abandoned his family, but it's not like he knows. He's just having fun with his complete empty life. It fractured the rest of the family, who we follow in the main story. The next three are fan favorites who can stand as some of the best in the series. Gladion and Lily both run away from their oppressive mother Lusamine, taking each in tow a Pokemon with some great potential. Gladion joins Team Skull, where he's not exactly a present member of the team, but more of an enforcer, picking up slack where the grunts fail at, all complemented with that amazing song you hear when you fight him. He tries to train his type notes so it can protect his sister, who he still sees as a meek, scared girl. Moreover, because that's what she is at this point in the story. The game opens with her and Nevi, the Cosmog, escaping Ether Paradise, where we then cut to our beginning and eventually meet her. She is clearly important, but her backstory is foggy at the beginning, leaving most of her development at the end after confronting Lusamine, who always has a sense of being a good person, even when clearly that's not what's happening. She goes into things too far because she's misguided and broken. She becomes obsessed with Ultra Beasts after your encounter with Nihilego, risking everything to get one, but eventually getting possessed or getting her ass kicked by a Necrozma. I like her in Usum more as a person, but less as a character. She leaves much less of an impact. Like, Ether only poses a threat for one section and ends, and that's a shame because during my Ultra Moon playthrough, I would have loved to fight Lusamine at least one more time. With that, you have a great story of a broken family coming together, with elements of space, washed up people, or Mr. McWholesome over here. We'll get into you guys later. It's a really good story, and I feel like I did an injustice explaining it, but there's the catch. To convey this, you have to go through some cutscenes. Lots of cutscenes. The hand-holding is probably the biggest complaint from this game. By the time you feel like you're at a point where you non-stop keep taking down trainers, you're thwarted by a cutscene you may or may not care about. It was such an issue that the option to skip cutscenes was added in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the literal next game's release. It made immediate second playthroughs tedious, and if you don't care about these characters, you're just sitting there mashing A, waiting for gameplay to resume, and you can punch a dragon or something. While I love these games, it makes me not want to replay them that much. That, and considering how much I've been burnt out on Pokemon, and it creates a spiral of negativity. Black and White 1 and 2 and Scarlet and Violet don't really have these problems. Long sections of dialogue are evenly lengthened and spaced out enough to make it interesting, and in Scarlet and Violet's case, they have the cutscenes off option to skip through the story. And with how much of the game is optional if you don't plan on going to Area 0, you can easily avoid the story. This was a good story as well, but the execution was not good enough. It, as I said previously, is probably the most negative aspect of these games, and it really hinders such an amazing story to experience. And that's only one half of the story. The other half is the more traditional gym badges and Elite Four stuff. However, not really. Game Freak knew their common formula was getting stale at this point. The 8 gyms and Elite Four were just to be expected and therefore felt repetitive. To replace this, they introduced the Island Challenge. The Elite Four was still there, but it's more of a build-up as it's being created while your adventure takes place. Instead of fighting 8 strong dudes, you only fight 4, and to compensate for those empty slots, there's Toto Pokemon. Super large and strong dudes that will wall even your Pokemon that's super effective against it. They usually call in other Pokemon to help resist them and take you down in a shorter amount of time. It gives that same feeling of being challenged while opening for a completely different experience. The best way arguably is to use the Z move and just finish it off from there, but there's multiple ways possible. Speaking of Z moves, we should probably cover those. Ever since Gen 6, Game Freak has tried to add a gimmick to their games to make them more fresh. The starting one was Mega Evolution, which is amazing and still being asked to return to this day. Gen 9, the most recent one at the time of posting, has Terastallization, which seems to be really popular, balanced, and fun to use and get around. Gen 8 had Dynamaxing, which I think is popular. I don't know, it's cool I guess. And Gen 7 had Z moves. Definitely the worst example of the wacky gimmicks. It would allow a one-time and a battle for one of your Pokemon to unleash a super powerful move that would most likely OHKO the receiving Pokemon. There is a large issue with that. The main strategy of the series is to pull out your super effective Pokemon and go ham on the opposing team. Most of the time, one super effective move is enough to kill. You don't need to go all extravagant unless this specific opponent is super bulky. All it does is give a fighting advantage to a neutral attack. I really only use it to get out of tough pickles or just to show off, and there's the benefit towards these. It's a bit weird to say considering this is Pokemon we're talking about, but the animations here are really outstanding and give that impact that you're probably gonna die. With the exceptions of ones like Twinkle Tackle and Supersonic Sky Strike, they are a real treat, and are enough for me just to click them for style points. That's like the only benefit these weird rocks have, but at least they aren't worthless. The real star, though, are the Pokemon exclusive Z Crystals. They're the best animated and give off the impact that massive damage just occurred. Not enough to be considered amazing, though. I mean, Smash literally had to specify that their version was a whole lot more detailed and powerful by putting a max next to malicious moonsaults. But if you're looking for the best official Pokemon animations you can find, I don't know why you would, but this is where you'll find the best. No generation is complete without adding a few new Pokemon. Some are large hits, some are blatant misses, and a lot are stuck in Controversy Valley. Let's start with the fan favorites. Decidueye was always the favorite starter, and that's obvious for a reason. The Cloak of Mystery complements the archery aesthetic brilliantly. Alolan Raichu is adorable and might be better than his Cantonian counterpart according to fans. For me, this definitely clears. Vikavolt was and still might be the most popular regional bug, and it's plain to see with the whole design complementing the electricity greatly. Lycanroc with its many forms is very cool, and a nice break from the usual slow but bulky rock type, which is funny because that type is more best suited for the glass cannon role. Alolan Marowak is a vast improvement, hands down. Mimikyu is a brilliant concept, and it's no wonder that this is the most popular Pokemon to come from this generation. The Tapus look really cool and give off the vibe of that whole Guardian Deity thing. For ones that suck, you got Donald Trump over here, Mr. McFatcheeks 1 and 2, a punching crab with a punchable face, Discount Golden Girls, this f***ing fish, and wannabe Paradox Pokemon. Now comes to the real meaty stuff. Incineroar and Primarina are both heavily criticized for being too human. If you know who I am, you know where we fall for these two, but they have their fans and their haters. Wishiwashi has an amazing gimmick, but is still a gimmick Pokemon. That school form can really bring out appeal, or that solo form can repulse people away from it. The two monkeys doing monkey things. These are definitely controversial, but not by much since first people have to care about them. Yukimuku, yet another gimmick Pokemon. It just feels like Wobbuffet but different. I guess it gives more options on what you can do if you want to run a Countermon for some reason. Kamalo might just be the pseudo with the most flack. Although Baxcalibur might overcome it, that doesn't deny its presence. It just looks weird with all the scales, and it's kinda disappointing for the only dragon fighting type. Zeraora is very furry bait, and whether you like that or not is up to you. Please just don't go against people who like it, calling them furries. Let people like what they want. Leading up to probably the most controversial Pokemon from this generation, the Ultra Beasts. Poipole and Naganadel can be excused because they're the most popular from this bunch. Well, let's take a look at the others. Nihilego doesn't really have any strong opinions surrounding it, despite it being a good part of Sun and Moon's story. It lives up to its name and makes me feel nothing. Boswell and Pheromosa feel too humanoid. People can get past that and see their really cool inspirations and designs, or just shrug it off as yet another ugly Pokemon. Xurkitree is there. Celesteela and Kartana are counterparts for some reason, but both have their fair share of criticism. Guzzlord is very cool in concept, but may have been executed badly. Stack Attack and Blacephalon are interesting, but that can lead to their downfall. The main criticism happens when you group them all together. These don't really look like Pokemon. They're missing common features like eyes that stand out, normal amounts of limbs, coherent faces. The whole point of Pokemon is to bond with these aggressive yet friendly creatures, and that's kind of hard to do when you're missing a lot of recognizable elements. That's the entire point. These are aliens from planets light years away. They are supposed to look really weird to illustrate that fact. They adapted to a completely different environment. This sort of plays into the legendaries who aren't exactly considered Ultra Beasts, but are close enough to follow that design philosophy. Necrozma follows it the most, with the amalgamation of crystals it calls its body. But even after adding any light, you can easily recognize this as a dragon, just with detachable limbs. Solgaleo and Lunala are also clearly a lion and bat, with a cool space visor thing. Overall, this generation has some great Pokemon. It can get overshadowed by some other gens, but still solid. I've already talked about the Ether family in length, but they're not the only characters. How is yet another overly friendly rival, and he's more egregious because he was the first to pick the starter, Meteors. I understand why they did that, but it takes out so much strategy and makes the game a lot easier. You could go the entire game without a counter to your rival starter, but now it's a guarantee. And that's all my flaws with How. I love this little guy. His energy is so infectious and he's always so cheery in the darkest of times. The part that cemented it to me was when Faba accidentally revealed Lucimene's location and How tells him that by thanking him. His anger rivaled by How's happiness just cracked me up, along with Gladion's anger and the player character's neutrality. He is so precious and I would jump in front of a bus for him. Speaking of Faba, he's neat. It's fun to trash on him, but that's about it. Anyways, Guzma! Yeah, boy is perfect, giving that sense of menace while keeping up the goofy nature of Team Skull. He also gets a real challenge in his fights. His backstory is also really sad, and you start to feel bad for him. Seeing him intertwined with the Ether stuff is funny, because you know he can't handle himself in overspace. Team Skull may have their problems, but Guzma remedies all of that. We should probably get into that. They don't feel that menacing. They just feel like wannabe gangsters that are just giving you a hard time. We're told that they're mean to Pokemon, but we never see that in action. Most of the time, they're just doing random bullshit. Then you get to Potown. This place is completely destroyed and overrun with these goons, and you can feel the impact they left here. Especially considering the irony behind it. It's sad. Their connection with Ether Paradise is also a neat subversion and gives them more of that threatening aura that they so desperately want. Guzma is the best part, and it's hard to avoid talking about him in this specific part. The Kahunas are charming. Hollow's a great early mentor of some kind, and his relationship with How is good. Olivia's the weakest, but that's because of her absence in the story. Otherwise, she's pretty great. Nana's probably the fan favorite because right now especially, the Pokemon fandom loves these grumpy, serious middle-aged dudes. Also, he's a dark specialist, which was crazy in a pre-Piers timeline. Hapu is the most important to the story, and she's interesting. I like her growth and fighting her is fun, and my favorite part is how realistic she is with Lily. The trial captains are neat, but aren't anything special besides Acerola. She's very happy-go-lucky, but can do the spooky stuff when it's necessary. My favorite would be Mina though, because, I don't know, her design looks cool. And let's not forget the man himself, Kukui, one of the best professors in the series, if not the. It helps that he actually follows you during the story, and he never loses hearing. He's just having fun, and seeing him as your final opponent left a really lasting impact, one that Usoon completely ruins with How. That's not his fault, don't blame him. I kinda lost track on the whole love it or hate it side, but it goes to show how great these characters are. So, why am I on the love it side? Well, pretty much everything that was controversial here, I sway hard on that. That's not to say there's problems. The hand-holding can be painful, Z-moves are horribly unbalanced, and some Pokemon really suck. But those are all parts of really excellent stuff. That hand-holding is there to bring you into this brilliant story of a broken family and cool sci-fi shenanigans. Is it needed? Absolutely not. You could have spaced out the dialogue more with some gameplay, but that doesn't excuse it. Z-moves are very pretty to look at and give a lot of style to the game. We have some banger new mons, and my Smash main, so I can't complain. These aren't to excuse their faults, but merely point out the good behind them. There's some stuff that I haven't touched on, like the upscaling from Gen 6, the addition of full-time 360-degree movement, the removal of HMs, and more. Do I think Alola holds the best game in the series? No. Gens 5, 9, and Legends Arceus are much better. However, I think this is where Game Freak tried their hardest. They completely shifted away from a lot of staple features, and they made this look the best possible that they could. And this game, considering the time, is probably the best looking aside from pixel art because you can't go wrong with that. That's not really a compliment. I mean, they still have some of those camera tricks and blackout screens, but at least there's that feeling that they tried. Scarlet and Violet, as great as they are definitely lacking in that area. These games are too overhated and deserve to stand among the greats. Or at least a tier below. Thank you for coming to my propaganda speech. So, if you enjoyed, consider leaving a like so I know, and if you want more of this, go ahead and subscribe. It's free and you have no idea how much it helps me. So, hope to see you in the next one. Have a good day, and farewell.